Hello, good morning everyone, and welcome to panel one. It's lovely to be here. So my name is Dimitri Suslo, and I'm one of the organizers of the conference. So panel one, in fact, our two following panels are exploring creative labor and this interesting connection, the intimate connection between informality and creative labor in terms of informal networks that sustain creative labor in cultural industries and creative labor and all different other aspects of informality of the field. And I'm very pleased to introduce all the speakers that are joining us for panel one this morning, and it's interesting, as I was looking at your bios, it was interesting to see that all of you work in a very kind of informal way across both academia and also creative sectors. So our first speaker will be Margarita Kuleva, who teaches at NYU and Steinhurst. Margarita is not just an academic, but also an artist and curator, and her practice examines different elements of creativity and informality through that. I'm gonna, so that's our first speaker. Then we'll be followed by Ioanna Neophytou. Ioanna Neophytou is also an artist and academic, and she is currently based in Athens, where she teaches at the, is it correct to say, yeah? Okay, fantastic. At the University of Athens, and you could see Ioanna's work downstairs if you're actually able to attend in the gallery space, sort of informal gallery space in the bookshop. And our final presenters of the panel will be Riitta Valijarvi and Jenni Salminen, and the speakers will be exploring fantastic elements of subversion, relating to the previous speaker, of the status quo in art and design in Finland. Riitta Valijarvi is one of my colleagues at UCL, and Jenni is currently pursuing her master's research, but also has an interesting background in glassblowing, as I found out just a few minutes ago. So it's all fantastic. So without further ado, I would let the speakers carry on. So thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much, Dima, for introducing us, and it's a real pleasure to be here again. Pushkin House is my absolute favorite, and I'm glad that CIS, that is also my very favorite, merged with Pushkin House in this attempt to cover informality both artistically and academically. I'll try my luck with the clicker. Let's see where it takes us. Thank you, because you are on the way of these mysterious waves that connect me to Tima. Yeah, right. All right, so I actually, so we were talking really quickly that I guess we all connected by the theme of creative labor, but also in our interest to materiality of labor and invisible labor, which is like so much, so underappreciated. So I really like the front page of the conference program that shows a cleaning rag or wipe. I also wrote a paper about cleaning in museums, and I'm a big fan of this process on both sides. So in my title slide, I was inspired by the presence of this object that out of context, but bring us back to the rough materiality of museum that to me emphasizes many inequalities given there. That's Pushkin Museum, by the way. Someone just forgot the cleaning rag, and it created an additional context and a sort of subversion going back to Mark's paper. So it's called Between the Lines, Informal Creative Labor, Political Subjectivity of Cultural Institutional, so workers of cultural institutions. I'll start by introducing my approach. It's one of my favorite artworks that sort of my way through an institution. That's American educator, curator, conceptualist Michael Ashe, who presented this work. And you might ask, like, where is work. There's no work, but actually the work is a powerful gesture of removing the wall between the clean and clear white cube of the works, the artworks usually located, and the background, the invisible workers, the logistics, the technical stuff, and all of that's hidden. So it is revealed. So I guess for Michael Escher, it was his take on capitalist critique, because this work to be bought and sold. But I see something else. I see these people that misrepresented, that unrecognized, and somewhere in the depths of cultural institutions. So in my PhD research, I did similar things. I entered many cultural institutions, mostly in the UK, in Russia, with some cases in Ukraine and Latvia, via back doors, by talking to curators, by talking to archival specialists, managers, sometimes cleaners, and that's a Moscow institution that usually presents itself via, advanced design, shiny surfaces. But there, if you enter the back door, you can see like many workers who are migrants, recent migrants from Middle Asia, in particular Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. You can see and hear the security workers who brought a comfortable sofa, and though the institution produced high art, they watched the soap shows and things like Modny Prigovor, which is a very popular Russian makeover show. So it's a totally different reality. So it's invisible part of the iceberg, but it's there, and the invisible part make the small part that is presented to the viewers exist. Actually, that's my point. So I am keen on materiality research in creative labor studies, and the approach I've been developing. I call it luminescent ethnography, which is to luminous matter is actually a meter that measures light, and by bringing my ethnographic optic and being present here and now in cultural institution, I looked how inequalities and the museum hierarchies are shaped, and the themes of cleanness and dirt are really deep to my heart, because my presentation is totally about different things, but just to mention that different surfaces are cleaned by different professionals, and the usual janitors are not allowed to touch museum objects, because museum dust of old oil paintings is kind of sacred, and only senior research fellows can actually touch that. Not like floors or and then it's a lot of material on so-called crime of janitors who destroyed art objects, like for instance cleaning Joseph Beuys fat on the bathtub, which cost millions of euros to this German museum, etc. So I'm looking at what's present in the materiality, in the rough materiality of museum, and I'm keen on looking at all together at surfaces, at cleaners, at sometimes cats in museum, and I call it creative ecologens, taking it whole in my research. So. My data actually consists of two parts. I was very inspired by the work of Ioanna and Anna Alacovska to look at informality and informal environments of cultural production. And I started this work in 2010s. So for this presentation, my new piece of work, I'm reworking my interviews of that time. But additionally, of course, I think it's kind of an urgent matter to look at institutions, at war in wartime in Russia since the full-scale invasion in Ukraine started in 2022. So I keep interviewing people who are Russian-speaking cultural workers who are both in Russia. I'm working hard to provide like maximum security for them not to be identified in my research and ensure that they could be sincere to me and tell me what actually 5 minutes left. Sort of. Oh, okay. But do you want me to do 5 minutes and then stop? Okay, 7. That's my. Can we? No. Oh, okay. 5 minutes. Okay. Well, the last thing to mention in the data section that I'm doing an activist project called Riitta Helps to help those people who want to immigrate because of the war and oppression-related conditions, and I held 104 of these sessions, and I'm glad to know that people who were not safer now. So if you know anyone who needs that, please sign up. To be very short on the informality conditions of informality, I would just say that it used to be a lot of corruptions in Russian museums. Well, that's a clear example of corruption from a major museum, classic museum in St. Petersburg. It's getting more on the wave of neoliberal principles and open searches, but though not quite. The museums are very attractive as they bring the kind of a platform for self-expression, but the real self-expression is rather limited. That's my favorite excerpt from a kind of a short film about garage museum that they filmed in Moscow, and being very sincere and charming. Well, the designer is telling us that this museum is a place to live and die. So it's way beyond contract. So it's like the entire life is held in this museum. So all the friends, sometimes partners, everything that they love in their life is just there. So that's a lot of informality. And I think I have just 2 key points that I want to highlight is that this I call this, especially contemporary art institutions in Russia, islands, because they're very dissimilar to a hierarchized environment, politically oppressed environment in the rest of the city, but they're islands that are hard to live. They are exploitative. It's kind of a sort of double organization of these cultural institutions, because like all of them by law they need to have contracts. Many of the contracts are open-ended, and you know it's quite a luxury in the US, in the UK. It's hard to believe that most of the workers are hired on open-ended contracts, but then the informal regulation is very different. And the workers, because they're all friends, because they identify with the institutions, it's very hard for them to fight that. So I would just emphasize on this way of neoliberal creativity, which is grassroots. Just so like the workers don't take the mechanism of protection that are suggested by the law, because they don't want to identify with the oppressive governmental machine. So they better negotiate informally. And I think that the last point, but it's very important, I want to talk about the war and what is going on. And of course, that's a lot of protest among the creative workers. That's the very beginning of the war, so that's a petition that was disseminated online, and 13,000 cultural workers all across Russia signed the petition. Unfortunately, based on this, the list was published and they were targeted by police, they were targeted by Ministry of Culture, they were fired, they were prosecuted. Then the list was concealed, but it was too late. We remember the very brave intervention by Sasha Skochelenko, who spent many months in prison for putting these stickers in local Peterechka grocery store. Alongside with this, that's a lot of protest that goes in between the line. So I would say that's because like not everyone can afford to be like openly brave and come in direct action with protests because, well, people have kids, people have elderly parents, and I completely understand that. So I would say that's a lot of feelings and a lot of like long way practices of protest that concealed like fog by void. And so people often just, they know that they think alike, they know their protest, but they're scared to talk about that. So it's like a political agreement that's hidden in void, and also that's loss of language. And for many of the cultural workers, because they self-identify with an institution, it was very hard to separate. And so they were building this oasis in Russia for many years. And then they have to leave this, like the very home that they made their creative identity to be true. So that's part of hardships to live. And I want to conclude with this interview with a very young cultural worker. That's pretty much about informality. And her voice, that is a voice of a very young person, I would say even a child, who just like not happy in the state of work like she came as a young professional, because like the even informal rules that were somehow spoken are not spoken anymore, and all the old mechanisms are fail to work. So that's the silence of informality that prevent her from act. And well, basically, she is very tired of it. She wants clarity. And so the caps is because like she was basically shouting this in the interview. I just want to say in the end that the practice of informality, that's entire world in Russian museums that conceals both origins of protest, that conceals exploitation, and conceals still existing solidarity. And I hope that we can discuss. I think there are many intersecting topics, and I'm looking forward to the next presentations. Thank you. Okay, you can see it. I will. Yeah. No, that's fine. I want to see too.
Okay. So good morning. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm grateful to the conference committee for inviting me to join you in the Global Informality in Arts Conference. I believe that investigating informal practices within artistic institutions can make a valuable contribution to promoting critical works and that question or even transcends the systemic nature of contemporary art institutions. No? No? Ah. Okay, thank you. I will do that and you will know when, okay? Okay, so in this talk, I will examine and illuminate the strong correlation between cleanliness and formality. Firstly, I will try to show how the often invisible work of cleaning is essential to maintain the illusion of order and formality in institutions. We tend to measure civilization by its capacity to uphold cleanliness, yet we rarely interrogate who performs this labor and under what conditions. Consequently, cleanliness and formality are co-produced through regimes of power and visibility. In the second part of my presentation, I will examine cleanliness as a crucial element in the mystification of artistic institutions. I will then compare and contrast this with the way artists make cleaning labor visible, thereby advancing criticism of the institutional stratification of manual labor. Finally, I will explore the possibility that cleaning workers in artistic institutions constitute the primary and perhaps sole labor class audience of the museum. Can we change the slide? Okay. Institutions are structures through which authority is organized and exercised. They required a certain level of formal setting and normative behavior, and they take cleanliness for granted as indispensable to their functioning. Yet the relationship works in both directions. As cleanliness reinforces the formal setting, it becomes a visible marker of social order, normative conduct, and spatial hierarchy within any institution. As Mary Douglas argued in her classic anthropological study, Purity and Danger, in 1966, processes of cleanliness and purification also serve as symbolic functions, shaping social relations and binding groups together. In other words, humans avoid dirt and create structures to maintain cleanliness, not only for hygienic reasons, but also to uphold social conventions and collective convictions. So maybe we... Thank you. So thus, cleanliness is never neutral. It reflects symbolic boundaries that separate the proper from the improper, the ordered from the disordered, formality from informality. Consequently, formal environments must regulate both physical space and human behavior, where cleanliness serves as the starting point. The world appears orderly and hospitable precisely because this essential work is performed. Despite its fundamental importance to society, the labor of cleanliness remains largely unseen, and its conditions are seldom questioned. Writer and activist Françoise Vergès, in her book A Decolonial Feminism in 2019, critiques the systemic undervaluation of janitors by situating cleaning labor within histories of colonialism, racial capitalism, and gendered exploitation. Cleanliness creates a form of distinction and social classification, stigmatizing often considered less clean those who perform it. The people responsible for cleanliness are positioned as marginal workers on the social hierarchy. As Vergès points out, so maybe we can, thank you. Okay. Cleaning workers, who are predominantly women and constitute a racialized labor force, perform underqualified jobs and are therefore underpaid. They work at the expense of their health, most often part-time during early morning or evening hours, when offices, hospitals, universities, commercial centers, airports, and stations are empty, or after guests have left their hotel rooms. Every day, billions of women are tasked relentlessly with cleaning the world. Without the labor of these women, millions of employees and agents of capital, the state, the military, as well as cultural, artistic, and scientific institutions would be unable to use their offices, eat in canteens, hold meetings, or make decisions in clean environments where waste baskets, tables, chairs, armchairs, floors, toilets, and cafeterias have been prepared for their use. This work, essential to the functioning of every society, remains invisible. Françoise Vergès highlights the manual labor of cleaning. emphasizing its critical characteristics. It is difficult, although underqualified, underpaid, racialized, feminized, invisible, and formally regulated work. In contemporary feminist discourse, it is increasingly acknowledged that the substantial share of caregiving and maintenance work in the global north is performed by women of color, many of whom are migrants living in highly precarious socioeconomic circumstances. Now, I think it's necessary to stress the importance of cleanliness in art institutions, such as museums, galleries, art spaces, hyper exhibitions, and art foundations that organize and determine the value of art in the Western societies. Art institutions function as venues of selection, collection, and preservation. Consequently, they confer aesthetic value, which is also translated into economic value. To achieve this, they present themselves as neutral, antiseptic, and ahistorical. In the 1976 publication Inside the White Cube, artist and writer Brian O'Doherty defines the characteristics that set the gallery apart from society. The gallery, presented as a seemingly neutral space, creates a powerful ideological construct that shapes artistic meaning through the following traits. So the white cube is unshadowed, white, clean, artificial, untouched by time and vicissitudes. These qualities constitute powerful perceptual fields that attribute an aesthetic to the gallery context, excluding time and history, and elevating art to a mythical, almost religious status. The formal ambience of artistic institutions, what is described as white and clean, is the result of a gender-intensified labor, bleaching walls, polishing floors, cleaning vitrines, and so on. In this sense, the white cube can be read as the aesthetic expression of white supremacy and bourgeois dominance, a system that depends on the racialized, feminized work of cleaning. So can we move on? Great. So, artists have often questioned or challenged the white cube's mystification and have devised new ways of engaging the audience, either by acting directly in the public sphere or by critiquing the structure of dominance within artistic institutions. For example, in Fred Wilson's work Guarded View in 1991, the four black headless mannequins dressed as museum guards remind us of the racialization of manual labor in museums. While the piece explores cultural segregation in the United States, it also highlights how visibility is regulated in museums, what we observe in a museum, who we overpass unconsciously, and whose works remain invisible. In the same spirit, and in an effort to combat invisibility, the New York-based artist Mier Laderman-Ukeles places cleanliness at the center of her artistic practice. By turning the act of cleaning into a performative gesture and by naming the process of cleaning maintenance art, she foregrounds the hidden orders that sustain museums. In the image below, we see Ukeles during one of the 4 performances she realized at the Watson Atheneum Museum in the US in 1973. Over 4-hour performance, Ukeles cleaned the museum's main stairs, aiming to make visible the labor that sustains institutions. She carried out the cleaning actions in a deliberately theatrical manner to draw a parallel between her maintenance art and the work of the most celebrated male artists of the time. For example, the way she theatrically dripped water on the steps echoes the drip paintings of Jackson Pollock, which were widely acclaimed during that era. Ukeles' work marks an important step towards the recognition of janitor labor in most art institutions. It is worth mentioning, however, that her own position is relatively privileged. Although she is motivated by solicitude for janitors, her maintenance art remains, by definition and market value, art, while the everyday work of a professional cleaner involves continual upkeep on standard 8-hour shifts. Within the walls of an art institution, where there is an apparent hierarchy that distinguishes the process of cleaning as high value, the maintenance art of Ukeles, from low value, the maintenance work of the janitor. For Ukeles, maintenance activities expand her artistic reputation. For most janitors, the same labor is underpaid, underprotected, and precarious. Okay, in conclusion, I argue that cleaners in artistic institutions have the opportunity to develop a close, unmediated relationship with the artworks in the exhibition space. Although they are never conceived as an audience, most museum workers may be one of the few cases in which working class actually spends time among artworks. For many working class individuals, the museum is not a familiar habit, nor a space in which they feel they belong. They often do not see themselves represented there. So maybe we can next. As numerous theorists and artists have noted, from Pierre Bourdieu to Hans Hack and Martha Roslem, who I cite below, high art is patently exclusionary in its appeal, culturally relative in its concern, and undissolubly wedded to big money and upper class life in general. So yet janitors in artistic institutions are compelled to be inside the galleries, and consequently they experience the exhibition from within. While cleaning museums, they have the opportunity to approach the artworks and notice details that often escape the broader audience. Thus, janitors and the other staff members of cultural institutions can develop a privileged relationship with works of art. This observation opens a promising field of exploration for my research, raising questions such as what do cleaners appreciate in what they see? How do they interpret the pieces they favor? Which type of art attracts them the most? Which artworks move or motivated them? And what would they like to create themselves? These questions fascinated me and became the starting point for the documentary Hans im Pleach, which I would like to invite you to visit in the exhibition. So thank you.
Okei, kiva. Toimiiko toi? Okay. So, Jenni, do you want to reintroduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Jenni Salminen. I'm a glassblower and I'm studying in Aalto University of MIA of Contemporary Design. And I have dyslexia, which is really common on craft people. I have noticed it.
So we're warning. So we're going to see how it goes, reading the slides and our notes. And we have rehearsed this twice. What else? So Jenni's MA dissertation is about how glassblowers, so the artisans, work with designers, because a lot of the kind of glass pieces are associated with designers, but they're actually created practically by glassblowers. And together I'm a sociocultural linguist, let's say. I do all sorts of things like heavy metal and indigenous languages and non-binary language. And together we would like to look at the language of glass. So seeing these terracotta things like representing words was very, very inspiring in the beginning. What else? How do we know each other? I promised to, Dmitry asked, like, how do you know each other? So we've known each other for very many years because we have the same mother. So Jenni is my sister. Surprise. So the surnames don't match, but our mum is very tall, as you can tell. Okay, let's see if the clicker works. It does. Oh, okay. Brilliant. Teachers have a magic touch.
So yeah, this is the Finnish parliament, which is located in Helsinki.
And? No, it's not working. Anyway. So the purpose of this presentation is to look at, it's very different from the previous two, and Jenni is the practitioner here, and one of the Instagram accounts that we look at is has to do with design and art in that sense. And they protest against these informal practices in Finland, which were mentioned in the beginning, in the plenary.
We have selected 3 Instagram accounts that use memes to criticize the Finnish state of values, middle class lifestyle, and then the design establishment. And
this analysis will eventually be multimodal and look at all aspects of these memes and kind of consider memes as a form of art. But this is work in progress. Here, this is an illustration from a main newspaper, Helsingin Sanomat. It says keskiluokka, which means middle class. So for some reason, Finns are quite obsessed with what middle class is and who's a member of the middle class and so on. And there are surveys, many surveys. You can do this like a quiz to see whether you're middle class. And this was a recent paper.
Finland is one of the most successful democracies of the world, and they have supportive welfare system, high equality index, low levels of corruption.
And our presentation has to also do with these kind of traditional Finnish values of middle-aged and older people, which are centered around work. So work is very, very important, and certain kind of work. Also responsibility and security, these are in recent surveys been seen as important. And obviously Finland is known for its design, particularly textiles, ceramics and glass, Jenni's area of expertise.
Here's the northern lights.
Just a little exoticizing Finland. Okay, next. So these networks, Hyvä Veli networks, or Hyvä Veli system was mentioned earlier, so dear brother, how certain, let's say, men in the past, middle-aged men maybe, and older, they favored each other when, or maybe if you've done your military service together, you would have received certain perks and you would have kind of gotten certain favors. So this is still there, but we want to expand this a little bit, that there are other networks. Oh no, keep the slide, thank you.
Yeah. These networks can also be analyzed as a mechanism that exert power and pressure on others.
Yeah, so these Instagram accounts are kind of protest accounts and constitute protest art, and these people feel marginalized. And you'll see it's quite radical. Some of them are anti-work, which in Finland is I don't know. Our mom would be in shock. You'll see. We'll get to them in a bit. Next.
This is the Finnish glass art, which has been created by Timo Sarpaneva, who is a designer and not the glassblower.
Next. You're getting to work a lot here with the clicking. So these are our ultimate research questions, but you're getting just a glimpse today. So how does this work in a democracy where everyone's meant to be happy? You remember the happiness index, we're meant to be the happiest people in the world, but these accounts show like a different side to the coin. Yeah, next.
The first account is called Pika Kahvi Meme Girl, which is instant coffee meme girl. In her bio, she says it is critical of work and capitalism and expresses her political views through memes, art featuring female celebrities from the 90s and early 2000s.
Yep.
The meme you see here is right. The meme you see here is the right to say the propaganda I won't fall for, go to work.
Yeah. And they say that the work that they're meant to do is like it's exploitation because they're given bad work and they don't. Who earns money is the kind of capitalist and right-wing politicians, and it's like a trick. So you should not need to go to work. Next.
The first slide is I like your sense of humor, and the woman says that it's a Finnish government and they are serious.
Yeah, so that's criticizing. The middle one we're going to skip a bit. The middle one is rich and penny, the rich and the penniless, echoing like a soap opera name, I suppose. And instead of rich people getting money, they should be given, I don't know, 15% discount vouchers, bottles and cans to be recycled and so on. And the
last one is the Finns who answered the happiness survey featuring over there.
Yeah, it has Lana Del Rey, another celebrity here, and the classic meme. So the meme is like a template being used here. Very interesting for a linguist as well. And this is like basically the opposite. We're not all so happy, and then the text further criticizes the rich. Yeah. Next slide. The next one, yes, this is mine. So this is only middle class things, the account, vain keskiluokkajutut, and this obsession with the middle classes in Finland can be found in the digital realm, but they try to be critical. Like here, this one is like, oh, when you've received perfect service, but you're giving 3 stars or 8 out of 10 so that they can still improve. So this is like, I don't know, first world problems kind of account. Next slide.
The first meme says that I'm signing the email with autumn greetings. Also, I really want to resistant Tom to go through the toilet paper.
Yeah. The middle one we can skip. This last one is quite nice. Once again, pop culture featured constantly. The red pill says you're getting €1 million. And what does the blue pill say? It says, your enemy always has a training day at work, motivational speakers and team building exercises. So this is the middle classes. That's what they get. All right. And the last one, now we're going to the design one. We're going to speed up so we have time for a discussion. So this is called vain design. You do only design things. We're going to skip that. Next slide. All right. This one, the first one.
The first one is when you're trying to understand how people can afford to live and be part of the scene to be cool.
Okay. So this is saying that in the Finnish design circles or the scene, there are some who seem to have money and the connections. So this is very much expanding on the Hyvä Veli networks. So some people's parents are, I don't know, architects or come from fancy families, so they will get to design school and they're the ones who get all the commissions and all the projects. And this is kind of emphasized by the middle one, which says, I mean, dogs are cute, but this is not, this is a critical meme. So it says designer circles, how they all just, it's always the same people going round and round. And the last one is a bit of a meta one, so.
The designer is the designer's worst critic, even in memes.
Yeah, so this is like, you kind of, this is the further, what was it, affirmation that you're still, although you're criticizing it, you're part of it, in a way. All right, our last slide. Is it me? Yes. Yeah. So these accounts express very clearly some kind of dissatisfaction and fight against informal practices, and also formal practices, one should say, like democracy. But this thing of having to work, there's no official rule, but there's an expectation.
Against work, the government, middle class values, and pursuit and design hegemony.
That's right. And these pop culture references and humor are there for relatability. That's how we'd like to address it. Like they create this online community, you can relate to them, but at the same time, they are about this shock. They're ugly. I mean, I'd like to say, but you can disagree. If you found them beautiful, then get in touch during the coffee break. But they're not pretty. And they kind of are meant to stand out, and they match the protest, they match the kind of effect, the emotional, the feeling people have. And I think they also, or we think that they also, Jenni?
Against clean, minimalist, Scandi aesthetic, and the polished influencer accounts.
Okay, and then if you show one slide, and then that's it. So these are some of the things we're going to cite in the final paper. And I mean, memes, the internet is ugly. Memes are ugly, but ugly things are there for a purpose. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and sorry for bringing the rigidity into this informality conference. Unfortunately, somebody has to be a bore. We have a few minutes because of that left for some questions, so if anyone in the audience has questions to one of the speakers, please let me know. Do we have a roam mic, or could somebody provide this? Oh yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not very capable of moving around with a mic, so I don't know if anyone could assist. That would be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Does it work? Yeah. Okay. Hi. My name is Olga Chmichova. I'm from University of Manchester, and I have a question. I think it's mostly to Margarita and Ioanna, but I'd be happy to hear reflections of other speakers. It's about informality in cultural sector and how the research of informality is purposed to disclose and to acknowledge that it exists and to understand it. The question is, some part of the informality, especially in authoritarian contexts, happens because it's not safe to talk about it out loud. And so my question is about the ethical aspect of such research. So how do you define it for yourself? What is, to what extent it's safe to explore it and to acknowledge it in the research and kind of making it visible for the state as well, of how this sector works, of how informality of solidarity, of protest, etc., how it works in Russia, in Georgia, in Kazakhstan, etc. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I think it's a great question, and it is very important. So in my research consideration, it's a central question to make it safe. I do agree with you that sometimes it is informal because it's dangerous to formalize it, but there are many other reasons. Like it's over-bureaucratization in Russia specifically, it's a reason. So it's a shorter path of informality or, oh, okay, I have an A. That's, yeah, my subject got divided in this journey. So there are many reasons, but definitely the eyes of the bigger brother of the state is one of the reasons. So in my research, I make sure that I don't make public or identifiable my interviewees. I think that that's my tactic. And I really like the approach of collaboration that Ioanna was talking about earlier. And I think I'm hoping to back some support of these workers, knowing that they're seen, but I mean, I'm not a representative unless I'm a cultural worker. I'm their collaborator, I'm there for them.
Thank you. It's a very interesting question. I am based in Athens, and so I can speak for the Greek context. For me, it's a very important question because it's true, it might be very difficult for those people to speak openly and expose things that might happen during their work. And also the working conditions, because precarity is the main problem of working in an art institution. So for me, it's also a question of inventing ways of protecting them in the same time as trying to show what happens in institutions. For example, the biggest discussion that we had in Athens during for the working conditions of in art institutions was because of many of them were license from work. So it started a big discussion. And for example, in my work, what we did, it was to hide their names, not present their names, who they were, but also fill them in different places. So in places that they don't expose the place that their actual work. So it was a way to protect them And in the same time, they wanted to make things visible. They had this desire to share all this information. So visibility, it's something that is a demand also for workers to create conditions that they can present the problem, in my opinion.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thanks for both presentation. Hello, I'm Chiara Mini, one of the colleagues from UCL. I'm interested in sort of social and economic aspect of cultural institution, as my question relates more to the first two presentation. And you talked a lot about the invisibility of workers that might be migrant, low paid, women. And interestingly, you mentioned how for them maybe to work as cleaner, they get the only chance to spend in those institutions where they might not feel like they're included or they don't have access. So my reflection and question for you is, what can we do to make those individuals more visible? And maybe do you think this type of project and research has the chance to make them feel more included? I mean, I worked on a project exploring how people feel and what their barriers are to access these type of spaces. I'm just curious from your point of view whether, you know, what your research can do for that. Yeah, anyway, I could go on, but I'll stop. I keep it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, we're making it public, so we are public now on the internet. So talk about that, it's like something least that we can do, and then show our research directly to these cultural institutions and present them. So that are the issues. And I think art activism work in the time of my PhD here, it was a very successful campaign to stop free internship. And it was very creative. It was near Christmas time, and they showed up in these institutions wearing masks and Santa costumes, and they just said, like, everything we want for Christmas is pay. And now the situation improved. Sometimes it's a long process, but I think working with institutions is a key. And as a positive example, I'd like to bring an annual exhibition that Whitney Museum organizes in New York, The Art of Workers, because among like technical workers and so anyone basically who's there, many of them are artists. So they show the art of workers. I think that's a good practice to take home.
Well, I totally agree, and I think as long as artists show an interest in this, in the aspects of considering museum as also a labor space, as a space where people work, it can be valuable, and also it creates conditions of visibility. For me, for example, the first time I presented my documentary, it was in a very luxury hotel room. So there was every day a different maid was cleaning the house. So they had to encounter the work. And I have left notes every day for the maid that entered the room. And we had started to have an exchange in between us, because for a month, they could stay, watch the work. I demanded them not to clean and spend time watching the video. And then we started writing to each other, because it was also impossible to catch them on work. So it was quite interesting. And the reception I got from them was really, it was a happiness for the valuation that we gave to their everyday work.
I have a question for Riitta and Jenni. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I'm from Estonian, so that's the context for the question. And I was wondering if you said that in Finnish society there is often an obsession with trying to define what middle class is. or whether you are middle class. I was wondering if there's a strong visual design language that goes along with it, because, for example, when you go to Helsinki, you see a lot of marimekko, and I was wondering if you could say something about the connotations or if that brings up any thoughts.
Yeah, you kind of answered your own question. So that's definitely part of it. So it's marimekko. What else?
Art Deco, that's like a big thing that you have, like this specific furniture that's like really like, you know, you're like good. And then you have this lokkivalaisen, which is like this white light on the ceiling, and you know when you walk to someone's house, then if they have that light, you know they're like well fed and they have a good work.
So are these intentional milestones for people? Then is the kind of very
That's
intentional.
that's really good. I think it's informal because I know many middle-aged, middle-class women, Finnish women, for some reason. So then we all have these things at home. So I'm not sure how conscious we are. Obviously, in this kind of diaspora or expat setting, you bring them with you, and that's how you express your Finnishness. But it's the same in Finland. They don't technically need these. They don't have a nostalgia to anything, but everyone just has them. And it's partly, if you frame it like this, that is part of wanting to have nice things in your home, it's contemporary design, it's pretty. But then there's some sort of nationalism also. You want Finnish, it should be Finnish. I don't know, Arabia is another one with certain mugs. And then I laugh at this, but then I look at my, kitchen cabinet or wardrobe, and I'm also part of it. So, yeah, that's a really good question. Someone should look at that and then conduct interviews and ask, like, what's going on? And both outside Finland and then kind of the meaning of these objects. I don't know, Moomin mug collections, that's another one. But I'm not sure whether that's about class or it's about some kind of national identity. So it's difficult to say. I don't know. What do you think, Jenni?
Well, like we're happy working with the designers and artists and people who buy design and art. It seems that they are more rather, like when I'm happy selling my own pieces, they want to use money for the one which you actually know already, like for the ones which have been made in like movie mugs are made in Thailand right now. They are not made in Finland where they have been made before, because there has been Arabia ceramic factory. But the glass design is made in Finland, like Iittala glassware is still blown in there. But still people are feeling that they want to buy the Arabia things because they are like Finnish nationality and quality and things like that, even though not made there. But yeah.
Thank you for the lovely panel. I really enjoyed all of your presentation. But I have the question for the last one, which actually links to the Arabia. Yeah, I was wondering whether the imperialism of Russian Empire somehow contributed to this preserved tradition of Finnish nationalism and class culture in terms of objects and things.
Can you repeat the beginning of the question, please?
The imperialism, cultural imperialism of Russian Empire in the 19th century, for instance, the Boston tradition. I mean, Arabia.
I'm not going to comment on that because I haven't read anything about it. Well, I have obviously. I mean, I teach a course on Finnish history, but it's not my area of expertise. But in like 1800s, national romanticism. Yes, we created various symbols, various institutions then. Yeah, so it does relate to, and when in times of crisis, like in the 90s of the fall of Soviet Union or the European Union, that membership, there was a need to kind of go back to the national romantic things and kind of reassert, look at folk law and find inspiration there. And it is true that for small nations, I'm not saying this is typical for Finland, but there's always a need to go back to kind of reassert your identity, for sure. Is that what you meant? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a connection, but it's not kind of conscious, I wouldn't say. But when you feel under threat, these symbols matter more and these objects matter more and institutions matter more, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.